Welcome to A Canadian Investing in the U.S., a podcast and YouTube channel focused on Canadians buying real estate with host Glenn Sutherland.
Welcome to another episode of A Canadian Investing in the U.S. This week, my guest is Nick Loper. Once again, I've been completely selfish, and I got on a guest that is for my own preference. I listen to Nick's show. It's really good at getting you distracted from your main hustle, but it gives you all kinds of crazy ideas. And I love entrepreneurship, and it's the perfect show to get millions of ideas. And I think it's his Thanksgiving show. Correct me if I'm wrong. That you do 100 different or 10 different types of side hustles. One of those, I know it's in the fall or something, that there's one episode where you just power through a whole bunch of different ideas, or the best ideas or stuff like that. But
yes, you bet. Well, Glenn, thank you so much for having me. Thank you for tuning in. That means the world to me that somebody would spend some time with me in their earbuds. So for the last 7 years, I've hosted the Side Hustle Show. It focuses on part-time business ideas, creative ways to make extra money outside of your day job. There's 380 something episodes in the archives. Please don't binge through from the beginning. I promise. Don't start at episode 1. I promise they get better, but pick and choose the ones that are interesting to you. And it's a project that started as a side hustle for me on kind of as just an experiment on the side of the business that I was running at the time, which was, the original side hustle that was the thing that let me quit my corporate job. So it's become a thing of its own. It's taken on a little bit of a life of its own. It's been my main focus for the last few years, and it has just opened my eyes to just the breadth of opportunities that are out there. It's been really exciting to share.
Yeah, there is so much stuff on there, and it even piques my interest of things that I can do that are related to real estate, or to my, even I do a book club. So you're like, hey, maybe I should set up some affiliates, and maybe I should do there's just, no matter what you're doing, there's always spin-offs that you can think of, and it's great for ideas. It just pops ideas in your head. Anyway, yes. So Nick's joined us from California. You want to pitch? You have a few books, I believe.
Sure. Probably the most relevant, or one of the most relevant for people just starting out, is just called The Side Hustle. It's at sidehustlenation.com/book. It's free on the Kindle store. I don't know if it's free on Amazon.ca, but in the US store it should be.
Okay. We wanted to tackle, we were spitballing back and forth about what we talk about, because there's so many different ways we go. And we decided we were going to do an episode related to real estate still. So it would be side hustles for real estate people is what we're going to sort of go into. But right before we do that, Nick, I know you started out doing I think it was a shoe website or something like that. What are some of those side hustles you've done? I'll just pop through those quick, and then we'll go into the actual show.
Oh man. So I started out, I was the kid, trying to sell baseball cards and stuff at the end of the driveway.
Yeah.
I sold candy at summer camp. I painted houses in college. The shoe website was kind of the main thing for a lot of years. Really for almost 10 years was kind of in the shoe affiliate space. Since then I've done some freelance writing, some freelance editing, some Amazon experiments, some print-on-demand experiments, some self-publishing stuff, some online course stuff. It's all been a ton of fun, and some investing stuff as well. Although I'm a little gun-shy on direct ownership, and we can get into maybe why, but my real estate stuff is focused more on REITs and some private lending through Peer Street at the moment.
Cool. And you just mentioned the ownership thing, and I did have a guy on the show maybe a year and a half ago from California, and he was doing Airbnb, but he wasn't owning any of the properties. He was renting them, the properties, and then he was using that property to Airbnb it, and he'd make the difference between what he was paying in rent and the Airbnb, and he just was Airbnb arbitrage, and he was just
was this Sam?
Jay Massey.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Anyway, so Nick, I know you have a lot of people interviewed on your show, so you've done a bunch of people who are related to real estate, because it's always a hot topic right now. What are some of the side hustles that you've heard of that are people are using who are related to real estate?
You bet. So real estate comes in so many different flavors, but unless you're really creative with the financing, usually takes a little bit of cash to get started up front. And so some of these ideas that we're going to throw around are perhaps designed to get you to that down payment threshold. See if you can build your buffer a little bit there. Because, and even then, like if you did go buy a rental property, I wouldn't want you to be down to your last cent in your account, right? Like things could go wrong in the first couple months. You want to have a little bit of a cash cushion. The first thing that comes to mind, actually one of the hottest side hustles on Side Hustle Nation the past few years has been the mobile notary business, the loan signing agent business, which is essentially going to people's houses, helping them walk through this giant stack of paperwork to close on a mortgage. And it requires a notary public license, and it requires some other possible, national certifications. But it's like a relatively low startup cost business with a relatively high effective hourly rate. And sometimes you're making $100 per appointment, which is compelling for a lot of people. It's compelling for me. And there's some research that you need to do before you get into this, because it doesn't work very well in certain states. But if you live in an escrow state rather than an attorney state, you're going to be generally better off here.
Interesting. Yeah, I personally have used mobile notaries. It's very handy. I've actually probably closed more properties with mobile notaries than with actual going into a title company. I usually rarely go in there, and it's very convenient service. Like I the last one we did was on the hood of a car, because I got him to meet me at one of the rental properties, and we were down in Dayton, Ohio, and we were. It's very convenient. I think a lot of people are using it a lot more. I think it's one of those things that's going to continue to grow, because I think I don't want to really go into COVID too much, but I think having someone come to you and instead of going into a public place is getting more and more attractive too. Yeah,
there are some restrictions right now particular to this business, like trying to do things through Windows. Like it's not a great time to be doing it right now, but assuming this is all, moving past us, like I assume things get back to normal relatively quickly. But this is a surprising one, because it sounds like the guy who I connected with about this side hustle is like the world's greatest cheerleader for this. This is Mark Wills, who runs a site called loansigningsystem.com. And he's like, this is the greatest, the best kept secret in real estate. And he's like so over the top that you almost like the BS sirens start going off, right?
Yeah.
And so you're like, what is it? But I've heard from more community members on this particular side hustle, probably than almost any other. People making anywhere from just a few $100 a month up to like thousands of dollars a month. They've turned it into their full-time thing. And it's just like, okay, I guess this is legit. But again, dependent kind of on where you live and what the market is like in your area.
Yeah, and if you probably have to get into the loop too, because like I know whenever I talk to trying to close something, they hire it's always they hire some company or they hire some things, and I think it's just like everything. If you got into some smaller title companies, it's probably easier to get jobs from them than the big guys. But anyway,
right. The most recent guy I connected with, he was doing like $8,000 a month, and he said It was so slow at the beginning, because it's like the title companies, they want to go with their proven person, because it's like it's a pain in the butt if you screw up these initial, there's a cost of failure involved. So you have to be kind of a proven entity, and until you have some feedback, it's like, okay, well, our regular guy wasn't available, so they're going down the list, and then like occasionally, so you get a signing, and then you go and you do a good job, and you kind of slowly work your way up the ranks where you're like, okay, now he becomes the go-to guy at the top of the list.
What's the second one we're going to tackle here?
Number 2 is house hacking, and this was explained to me by Craig Kurlop, who used to be at Bigger Pockets, but has now moved on to do his own stuff. And this one was interesting to me because, okay, I feel like we hack our travel and we hack our budget and we try and do all these different things. I feel like I've hacked my work life pretty effectively, but the housing expense, right? It's just like this huge thing that you can't avoid. And so what Craig laid out, he's got an excellent book on this too. It's like, there actually are some really creative ways to reduce your housing expense, to neutralize that, and even possibly live for free through perhaps Airbnb arbitrage, through perhaps subletting by room, which again, you gotta check with your local municipality to see if that's kosher. It could be buying a duplex, threeplex, and renting out the other units and kind of neutralizing your costs that way. But Craig had some pretty creative ways that he'd personally done that and ended up turning out and writing the book on the topic. And I thought it was a really interesting read.
Yeah, I've actually been thinking about doing it right here in my office because it's like a big area in the basement. It's all finished nicely. I'm like, man, I could be renting this thing out.
Like what would it be worth? It's in kind of as we are, off and on shopping for real estate locally. It's like, okay, does it have a mother-in-law? Does it have like this rentability? It's like, okay, that would be a way to, maybe cover the property taxes or reduce that. It's just something that never really crossed my mind before. It was like, well, the rent is the rent, the mortgage is the mortgage, but it's like, okay, with a little creativity. And we even had friends who've been doing this for years. They're like, hey, we have a 3-bedroom place, but only 2 of us. So we'll rent it out to interns coming through town. Yeah, you got an extra person in your house, but what is $1,000 a month, worth to you over the long term? Like that accelerates your savings, accelerates your retirement big time.
Oh yeah. Sometimes you're just buying a multi-unit building or just renting a room. Like you're not actually having to come up with money to convert something. It may already be there. It might be just instead of paying rent or paying mortgage, you buy the property, for a specific purpose so that it can, do this for you. Right.
Yeah. Some friends of ours had a dude living in an RV, like in their little RV drive park thing on the side. They're like, sure, you want to park it there? $500 a month seem okay. They're like, wow, this is awesome.
Yeah, I've heard about crazy stuff like that. I heard down in California, someone was renting a tent in their backyard or doing Airbnb in it, but it was probably a nice tent, but still, it was still a tent.
Yes, things are a little nuts.
On to number 3, which was kind of curious to me. I'm interested here.
Yeah, number 3 is maybe my favorite real estate investing story. So a guest of mine on the Side Hustle show tells me the story about, wanting to get started in real estate, but houses are expensive. You need a down payment. And he's like, so he rolls up to his son's friend's birthday party and they've got this giant inflatable bouncy house in the backyard. And they get to talking with the other dads. And he's like, that's kind of like rental real estate. It's like, it's a kind of a house that he's, some company rented out for this birthday party.
Yeah.
So he goes home, after a little bit of research, buys a used bounce house on Craigslist for $800 and turns around and starts renting it out for $130, $140 a day. And it's like, that pencils out way better than the 1% rule for traditional rental real estate. And so I was inspired by that one. And of course, do your diligence on, liability insurance and all that stuff. But, he had this whole system set up. He'd hired a virtual assistant to kind of take the bookings through the website and, did the first few delivery setup and takedown himself, of course, but then hired a guy to do that stuff on the weekends. And so it had become relatively passive for him. And then last we connected, he had expanded to 3 or 4 other bounce houses to kind of expand his inventory, expand geographically a little bit. So I was like, that's a pretty creative way to go about it.
Yeah, no, I when you first said that, I was like, that sounds very hands-on, but no, like everything, like all these side hustles, you can create it, you can grow it and turn it into a business and hire someone to do the setups and takedowns and bookings. And yeah, no, like that's the way to do it. Otherwise you're just creating another job for yourself.
The next one that's on our list is rental arbitrage, or sometimes called Airbnb arbitrage, which we touched on a little bit, but basically, this is how to get involved without the expense of 20% down payment, 25% down payment. This method allows you to get in for first and last month's rent, security deposit, and whatever it's going to cost you to furnish this place. So I connected with a guy called Sam Zhao, Z-O-U, or Z-U-O rather. He runs a site called PassiveAirbnb.com. And this is his whole gig. Like he's got several different rental units in and around major corporations. So I started kind of in like Silicon Valley, like next to Google. I'm going to find these apartments and kind of cater to these business travelers as an alternative to hotel rooms. And his big thing is like, look, if you approach a landlord who has listed an apartment or a condo for like a long-term lease and say, hey, can I lease your apartment, and then list it on Airbnb, like you're going to get rejected out the door 99 times out of 100. So you have to present yourself as a property management company and say like, hey, we have this process in place. Like we're going to, make sure you have guaranteed rent and we'll take care of all the maintenance and on and on and on to improve your take rate a little bit. And then you profit on the spread between your 12-month lease cost and whatever you can get for it occupancy wise on the short-term rental market, which I thought that was a pretty interesting way to build up some Craig Kirlop called it synthetic equity. Like, it still work, and of course there are some services where you can outsource the booking management and the client communication, stuff like that, but an interesting way to go.
No, that's actually what we were talking about earlier. But it's a way to really get into controlling a property for a very low entry fee, right? You're not having to come up with the down payment and close the property. You don't need the credit score. You don't need a lot of the criteria that comes with owning real estate. So by renting it and basically re-renting it at a higher price, by switching it from a monthly rental to a daily rental, you can make the spread.
And so Airbnb is one of these, fast moving, laws are changing all the time. So check with your municipality. But if you're buying a place with the intent to turn it into a short-term rental, like, this lease model is way less risky. And if you do end up buying a place, just make sure it pencils out under different revenue models on the back end, just in case this Airbnb thing gets pulled out from under you.
Yes, exactly what you said, because all you need to do is basically get your security deposit back and move your stuff into some storage, and you're out of it, and you can go find something else to do.
So our last one is not necessarily real estate related outside of the estate sale aspect of it, but it is a way to multiply your money quickly.
Okay.
And this one is kind of inspiring to me, because it's like, if you're a young professional and you're staring down the road of, well, I could invest in index funds and maybe get my 8% return over the next 40 years, or I could take a little bit of play money that I'm comfortable with and try and find undervalued inventory at yard sales, estate sales, Craigslist, Kijiji, whatever it is, and multiply that money faster. That becomes a lot more compelling. And it's like, you guys probably know the red paperclip story, where it's like, a guy kind of traded his way up from a red paperclip, like, all the way to a house in Saskatoon or someplace. Yeah. But hey, a house is a house, right? And it was, it's kind of inspiring, because you can do that starting with a very low budget, and, sell this stuff on eBay and sell this stuff on Facebook Marketplace. And I'm always skeptical, because, like, it seems like as markets are more efficient, as like big data comes into play, it's like, well, how is this still a thing? But it very much is still a thing if you're willing to go out and hunt for deals. And I've seen people specialize in, like, flipping textbooks. I've seen people, like, flipping shoes and sneakers, furniture refinishing. There's a million different ways that you can go about it, but it's still very much a buy low, sell high type of thing.
Yeah, if you're passionate about anything or have any sort of knowledge about anything, you can use that to make a business. I've personally done that before with lots of stuff. I've sold textbooks before. I used to make T-shirts for fun. Then I had a T-shirt company.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's just like, you can turn almost anything into a business, especially if anyone owns a car. You can have Airbnb or Uber. You can Uber this thing out. Or, there's so many different things. And that's why they should be listening to your show. Get the brain going.
Did you ever play around with any of the print-on-demand T-shirt stuff?
No, mine was on the other side. I was the company printing the shirts.
Okay,
so
gotcha.
I had I still have a direct garment printer in my garage. I had heat transfer presses and
nice.
All the silk screening equipment. Still got a lot of that. Still about half of it off, but that was my hustle through college. One of my hustles during college. I had a few of them, but anyway, that's why the show speaks to me. So I'm always been doing something on the side. Before we go, I had one, because you gave me the list ahead of time, so I came up and thought of one myself. And one I thought of for real estate agents or real estate people who are interested in starting or even don't have any money to start would be bird dogging. I pay people bird dog fees all the time, and what a bird dog is they go around and find properties for me. Right? It's not quite like wholesaling. They're not going and setting up the contracts and everything. They're just finding the property, and telling me about it, and then I will take it over from there. And if I actually buy it, then I pay a fee. And it's something that doesn't cost them anything. People can scour the internet from it. They do better if they're local and they can drive blocks and tell me about houses that or whatever. But
yeah, do you need a real estate license to do that?
Well, no, like they don't really need anything. Like they could be just scouring Craigslist and then forwarding stuff that they find that looks like it's a deal, and if I'll look at it, see if it is a deal, and then if I buy it, then I'd pay them for it. Like just find me stuff, because it's a lot of work to go find all these stuff and scour all these sites and
right. You know. So like the inventory problem. The reason I ask is I've heard it both ways. Like, oh, you really ought to get licensed if you're taking any sort of commission on a transaction, but you know, if it's a more kind of informal relationship, okay, that works.
Yeah, it's just like the postman. He's walking around. Hey, that house is vacant. You should check that out. Okay.
Right. Look up the tax deeds on that thing.
It's all, since we got you, when you're the side hustle guy, I'm totally putting you on the spot for this because I was just thinking about this beforehand. And with COVID right now, right? There's COVID. There's a lot of people that are stuck at home, and I was just thinking, I'm like, because there's a lot of people that are wasting their time at home. Right now is a time, is actually opportunity, because you've gotten time, right? Time is so valuable. And like, this is a great spot to start a side hustle if you don't have one, right? If you have time, think about defining what a side hustle is to find a need of what people need and what is popular right now that wasn't as popular last year. Some stuff I just came up with, I'm going to give these away as freebies. Gardening and stuff at home. People are more interested in growing their own vegetables and stuff at home right now.
Yes.
Any sanitizer or sanitizer side product, carriers for it, whatever you want, right? That's going to be really hot from now. Work from home accessories. If you could find a way to sell secondary monitors or pencil sharpeners or whatever for people who are working at home.
Oh my gosh, I went to look up this webcam because I was like writing some article. Let me affiliate link that up, and it was like I bought several of these things. I swear they're only like $60 or $70. Yeah, they're $280 right now because like they're just sold out. People are flipping them. It's obnoxious.
Yeah.
Hopefully Logitech, eventually catches up with demand. But you're totally right. Kind of these work from home accessories.
There's so much stuff right now, and people think that it's right now where we're stuck at home and there's nothing to do. This is opportunity. This don't give away this time. This is the time to start listening to his show, get the ideas popping in your head, and then take some action. Go out there and start something. Start a website. They cost almost nothing to do. All kinds of promotion. I don't know. Everything's on his. I've listened to almost all the shows.
These are good. These are good. What else you got?
That's what I came up with while I was just waiting for you to come on before here. So,
okay.
But yeah, I started gardening in my house. I've never been really a gardener guy, but I started lettuce because it's so easy to grow lettuce, right? I got romaine lettuce.
I can't tell if you're like being sarcastic or not.
No, and you cut off and you keep like the bottom 2 inches of it. And you eat the rest of it, and you just put that in I put in a wine glass, and then you put some water in it, and it just grows a whole nother head of lettuce. That's it. There's nothing else to do. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, there's a lot of stuff that's really easy. Like you could start a YouTube channel just telling people how to grow vegetables. Yes. People are from your house, inside the house.
And along those lines, I'll share one more side hustle story. Yeah. Nate Dodson runs a business called Microgreens Farmer, and that's his business, like how to start a microgreens farming business in your garage, in your spare room. Hey, this stuff is like super nutrient dense. It grows in a week. Sell it at the farmer's market. You could sell it home delivery. You could sell it to local restaurants. His product is like a high dollar online course on how to do this. He drives traffic primarily from YouTube and does some paid ads and stuff. But YouTube sits at the top of the funnel where it's like, hey, here's me going through my process. Here's how I set up the little things, plant, time lapse. Here's how they grow. Here's how I package this stuff up. And it's like, call to action. Hey, if you want to learn more, hit up the website, email, opt-in, a little bit more information, boom, 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 email sequence, invites people to join the paid course. Like a really simple, kind of funnel, and he kills it with this thing. So so online business, obviously huge opportunity right now, creating content. There's a certain amount of getting in your reps to that stuff, whether it be blog, podcast, YouTube channel, whatever it is. So better to start sooner rather than later until like everything is perfect, right?
Yeah.
Delivery gigs, very hot right now. If you don't want to do them yourselves, you can think of how could you sell proverbial shovels into that gold rush? Like, what do delivery drivers need? So I've seen some apps come across my desk where, somebody has created software that, aggregates these different, if you use this app, you get better gigs in this area. It's like, okay, that's an interesting one. We'll automatically track your mileage and deduct that for you. There are some interesting things, like you said, the gardening thing. Once you start putting your thinking cap on, okay, what's hot now, what's likely to be hot coming out of this thing, there in every crisis there's opportunity, which I understand is hard to see when you're unemployed, but there's something there if you're looking around for it.
Yep. And these complementary businesses are perfect, because sometimes it's going to be, maybe like you just said, maybe very difficult to compete with some of these courier companies, depending what you're trying to ship.
Right.
But you might be able to create something for them. Right? That's okay. Nick, if people wanted to get a hold of you, what's the best way to find you?
The place I'm most active online is the Side Hustle Nation Facebook group, which is sidehustlenation.com/FB, a very supportive community in there. And just the home base is sidehustlenation.com.
Perfect. Thanks so much for your time, Nick. I really appreciate it.
You bet.